imagine. You're in a market and you're just kind of shouting to the crowd, like, come and buy these headphones. These headphones are the best headphones. And then Arlen comes over and starts asking me questions about headphones. And I just shout over your head. I want to get some people behind you. But you're right in front of me and you want to buy them. But on social media, I'm not stopping and going to you, yeah, Arlen, these are great. These will fit your head perfectly. You're going to love these headphones. And I think that's the real basic. Too many brands are shouting over the tops of people that are right at the front of the queue. And I feel like it's such a missed opportunity.
Welcome to the Ecommerce Marketing Podcast, the highly rated digital marketing podcast that provides weekly digital marketing tips and strategies from some of the world's top digital marketers and e-commerce entrepreneurs that will help you take your digital marketing to the next level. Sit back and enjoy this power-packed episode hosted by Arlen Robinson, who is an e-commerce entrepreneur and digital marketing expert with over 20 years of experience. Hey, e-commerce marketing podcast listener. Are you looking to increase traffic and sales to your website? You can do this by launching your own affiliate program. Just visit getosi.com and sign up for a free trial today. That's getosi.com. Now get ready to hear from your e-commerce marketing expert of the week as they drill down to give you details on marketing strategies that can help grow your business.
Welcome back to the E-commerce Marketing Podcast, everyone. My name is Arlen and I am your host. And today we have a very special guest, Joel Bailey, who is the COO and co-founder of Arwen AI. Welcome to the podcast, Joel.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Yes, and it's great to have you here. Really excited to talk to you. We're actually going to be talking about two hot topics, of course. Social media. We're going to be talking about how you tap into the potential of social media to boost and improve, your customers' willingness to spend. And we're talking about AI, how AI relates to that, AI and social media. So all things AI, I guess, things social media. I don't think anything is off the table with regards to those topics. So going to be diving deep into that. But before we dive into that, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background before we get started and how you got into founding Arwen.ai?
Yeah, sure. So I've been working in digital technology for about 25 years now. Originally, like yourself, I think, a lot of it was about creating websites back in the day. And I'm not going to go through all the history, but I've just followed digital all the way. I've done it in a number of different roles for big consulting businesses, down to small little operations. But the key thread all the way through is how do you engage customers in really interesting and exciting ways at any point of their customer journey, okay? And I saw software kind of eating the world over the last 15 years. And I kind of watched that happen, and I thought, wow, that's fascinating how that happened. And then I saw AI coming, and with a couple of my colleagues, we set up Arwen to kind of get ahead of that. We knew our AI was going to do the same thing. It was going to eat the world, and it was going to create all these dramatic opportunities for change. I mean, I sound like an old man, but we are a pre-Chat GPT business. So Chat GPT is obviously the accelerant, the gasoline poured on the fire. It's that's what everybody sees as AI. But when we started Arwen, it was pre-Chat GPT. And it was super interesting even back then. And I know people go back even further, obviously into the 80s and the 90s with AI. So that's how I came to this. And my background of sort of marketing, digital, customer experience all comes together in Arwen, where I have previously been head of product, CMO, and now COO. So looking forward to talking to you a bit.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And we were talking before, our background, as you were mentioning, our backgrounds are very similar. Started off developing websites. And,
that's right.
When I think about it, those early days, it's like, wow. To tell you the truth, myself, my co-founder, we started the business. Our backgrounds are computer engineering. We went to school for computer engineering and primarily the focus on software development. But it was at the time when we graduated where the internet was, just taking shape. And so, just like you, I'm sure you wanted to be a part of that. And,
sure. It was like the Wild West, right? Everyone was making it up. Everyone was exchanging ideas. and reading like the few random books that existed, like devouring it
Exactly.
all, and then just trying things
Exactly.
out. And that experimental ethos back then is what I
Mhm.
really see in AI now, is
Okay.
lots of people experimenting with lots of technologies. And I imagine being a marketeer working in an e-commerce space is a confusing world, right? There are a lot of people pushing a lot of technologies.
Mhm.
Obviously, we believe we found a real niche in that, but hopefully I can demystify some of that in this conversation.
Yeah, that would be great. So, so with us when we were getting started, the whole internet websites, that was the hot thing. Everybody was getting online, trying to get the hottest and the best websites. Now things are a little bit different. Now we're social media, of course, has been around for a little while, but there's been different platforms over the years that have really just been exploding. Got the Instagram, the Twitter or X, TikTok, of course, has really exploded. And
Mm,
so social media is now really the hot thing. There's brands, of course, e-commerce brands that are out there now, have platforms, and everyone is trying to see how they can take advantage of getting customers from these various networks,
yeah,
and, of course, increase their sales. For a business that's hearing this, they're already on some various social platforms,
yeah,
and their bottom line, of course, is, you know, how do they boost their sales
right.
on customer and on social media platforms? What would you say would be some of the first initial steps that they should take to really leverage social media to
Yeah.
boost their customer spending?
Yeah, I mean, what's really fascinating to me is I think annually it's gross across the whole planet, $270 billion. God knows who estimated that, but like, it's a huge amount of money being spent on social, whether it's on paid or organic. So most brands, and a lot of your listeners are already probably have a presence on social. They're spending money on social. But what I'm always fascinated about is there's still a gap, right? A lot of people report the benefits of social being engagement. And the question we always ask our clients at Arwen is, why is engagement important to you? And often that's not really a question that people have been asking themselves. Obviously, you're talking about e-commerce. We talk a lot about social commerce. Like, how do you actually get people to buy stuff through social media? Is like, that's the holy grail, and that's what more and more want to
Exactly.
do. Obviously, TikTok are accelerating into that space. But we would always recommend two things. Okay, so the first thing is boring but important. Okay, and I know podcasts love boring but important points. That is, a lot of social media communities have unfortunately descended into kind of like spam and toxicity, and comment sections are just a real mess. So one of the things that we
Yes.
specialize in is we have an AI suite of tools that detects and remove all spam, all unwanted comments from all your comment sections across all the networks. The reason
Mhm.
that's important is there's a big stat which I think is really kind of not understood in the industry, which is 67% of users, when they feel unsafe or they don't like
Mhm.
what they see, they switch off from paid and organic content. Okay, so all the money that brands are putting out there, if you're allowing, racist commentary, sexist commentary, spam to sit alongside that content, whether it's on a paid ad or an organic post, it is going to undermine your engagement. Okay, so the first thing we do, we have a moderate product. It removes that stuff, yeah, because it's just like a pollutant. It gets in the way,
Mhm.
and you absolutely have every right to do that. And we do it for various brands: US, UK, South America, now Europe, etc. So that's kind of one thing we recommend is like clean up your comments, like
Mhm.
have pride, it's what your clients are going to judge you on, sorry, your customers or your prospects are going to judge you on. So that's the first thing, but that's the boring bit, right? The more exciting bit, so first of all, boring bit's rubbish removal. The second most exciting bit
Right.
is like, then you've got this comment mountain, and I guess some of your listeners are going to be big e-commerce brands, some are going to be small, but everybody has their own kind of comment hill or comment
Mhm.
mountain. And usually, most of our clients, no matter how many followers they've got a small team running social media. Okay. So you might have, I think the average team size is about 3 to 7 of a social
Yes.
media team. We have clients who have followers counts of 40 million, all the way down to
Mhm.
like a few 100,000. And when you've got that volume of commentary coming through, essentially, you haven't got enough resources to keep up with the comments. Okay. So if you've got people,
For sure.
you've got the real challenge of finding the really valuable comments, like who's actually valuable in this kind of mess of comments. And then secondly, how do I actually engage with them? Like those two
Hmm.
parts of the job, that's a full-time job for somebody and probably a full-time
Hmm.
job for some teams, right? Just to stay on top of that. So most people that we speak to say, I know I have a comment mountain. I know I have comments. I just kind of ignore them or I dip in and out of them. If they're lucky, they might have a contact center who deals with the complaints. But what
Hmm.
gets me excited and what gets us really excited at Arwen is use cases like this, which we're helping with a couple of our clients, which I can talk about later, who are first of all, they're putting paid ads out on social. They might be spending like some of these clients spending $1 million a month on Facebook. And they are, first of all, we're getting rid of all the trash comments. We're working with the dating platform. They get quite a lot of homophobic comments. We get rid of those. And then when comments appear that are asking questions against an ad about the product or service, we are making
Hmm.
sure they are surfaced in front of the right individual in that organization to give them a response. And then the
I
second
see.
thing the AI is doing is it is recommending a suggested response based on the organization's facts. Okay.
I
So we
see.
train the AI on that brand, on how to answer the question, what the answers are, what the brand tone of voice is. So we're doing two
Hmm.
things, okay? And this is the really exciting potential for me around social media, social commerce, and AI is surfacing the valuable conversations out of all the mess and then giving you a recommended reaction or reply all in one platform. So every day you kind of wake up and there it is in front of you. It's like,
Hmm.
these are the 10 conversations I need to respond to today. These are the 4 buyer intent signals that Arwen's picked up that I want to respond to.
I
That
see.
for me is kind of like taking the impossible and making it possible because it was just impossible for no one had enough time in the day
Yes.
and no one really wanted to do it. It's just like a arduous job
Right.
doing it with a social
Yes.
listening platform because they just tell you, they just give you lots of reports, lots of data. We're going this
Hmm.
full stretch, helping you
Hmm.
find it and reply. So those are the two things, right? Clean up the comments and actually
Hmm.
then engage with the comments.
Okay. How how much of an effect are these spammy type comments, people promoting all types of stuff in your, comment stream? How much of an effect or negative effect is that actually happening on these brands in the eyes of these platforms? What would you say?
Well, in the eyes of the platforms, hard to tell, right? So the platforms
Yes.
aren't doing a huge amount. They are doing some. Different platforms have different trust and safety goals, and
Sure.
they do see it as a trust and safety problem spam because clearly a lot of fraud is starting there. So
Hmm.
users are being exposed to whether it's a porn bot or crypto bot, all these different sort of bots. Those
Yes.
comments pull you in to a different journey, and they steal the eyeballs of your user away somewhere else, and then they usually
Hmm.
defraud them. So there
Hmm.
is a big push to try and resolve those ones, but it's taking a long time because the bots are very hard to track. We just
Hmm.
focus on comment moderation of the bots, okay?
Okay.
But the impacts, so clearly you're removing a negative impact, which is a fraud risk on
Hmm.
followers. Arguable whether brands are responsible for that. I don't think they are. Everybody has to be
Right.
responsible for their own monetary safety.
Correct.
But all our clients say to us that, well, and we've measured it, 21.3% is the average improvement in engagement that we get our clients by removing spam and unwanted comments from their social media. And that's just the average. We've had some clients like Mercedes Formula One team who work with us. They had like 135% increase in engagement.
Oh wow.
So what we found, I think, Arlen, in the last few years is people have just become used to spam, right? Or they
Yes.
and they're like, well, it's just part of the furniture now. I have to deal with it.
Hmm.
I don't like
Hmm.
it. I haven't got time to delete it. And all that toxicity, well, that's just social media. But I'd say that brands who are getting an edge are the ones who are stepping in and saying it's not acceptable. I won't have it anymore. I'm going to remove it. And I would say there are certain brands who do come to Arwen probably sooner than others, and they are ones that are taking a position in the market. Perhaps they're working with influencers and doing combined campaigns around kind of certain identities. They're trying to appeal to a certain demographic, and that means that they're being exposed and vulnerable to some attacks by commenters, or that
Hmm.
spammers are just going to pile in and surf on the back of their kind of engagement.
Hmm.
And that pollutant absolutely has a negative impact on the engagement and then the resulting KPIs and outcomes you want as a brand.
Okay. Yeah, I totally understand that. Definitely makes sense. It's and going back to what you had said earlier, for these larger brands that have, millions and millions of followers, it almost seems like without a solution like yours, it seems like it would be next to impossible to
Yeah.
scrub all of this stuff out of there and
Yeah.
respond appropriately in a quick amount of time. So it just seems like
Yeah. I mean, and the
it's
scrubbing,
almost, you have to do it.
almost, yeah, and the scrubbing job is horrible, right? So
Yeah, sure.
when we're invited in, it's because they've had like the fourth person leave because all they do is remove spam,
Yeah.
and no one wants
Yeah.
that job, right? So we like to
Right. Yeah.
say, Arwen does the job you hate, right? It
Right.
loves the job. It eats hate. It eats spam,
Okay.
and it makes it happy. So it sits in the corner and does that for you. So people do like to think of Arwen as a person sometimes.
Sure.
But it's also, but I think for the first 2 years of our business, we were seen as like the hate eating monster or the spam eating thing in the corner, and that's great. And everyone loves that. There's a lot of rubbish to remove on social media. But what's most exciting now is clients are starting to see Arwen as this kind of, actually, it also raises its hand like a few times a day and says, there's a really interesting conversation going on over here and someone wants to buy something. And you've basically got like depending on what sector you're in, and certainly if you're in e-commerce and B2C, you've got a 1 hour window to close that opportunity before they go somewhere else. So if they ask you, if you've got an ad and it goes in front of you, Arlen, and I'm putting it there, and Arlen, you say, this is a great watch, where can I buy this watch? If I don't answer that question within an hour, ideally within 10 minutes, you're going to go somewhere else, right? And look for something else. That moment closes.
Absolutely.
And that speed of social engagement it's only made possible by this technology. And it can't just be based on keywords like the social listening platforms do it, because it's too crude, right? It's just, you need to actually have an AI analyze your comment, Arlen, and say, right, is this a real question? Is it about a product?
Right.
Is it from a user that is actually a user and not a bot? And all of that is what we do. And then
Gotcha.
we make sure that the notification goes to the right person. So it's quite simple, really. And it's really basic marketing. It's like, there's a buyer somewhere out there in front of your billboard thinking about buying the product. You're going to stand right next to them immediately and say, do you want to buy this product? Let me tell you all about it.
Yeah, that's exactly what has to be done. Now, for the brands that aren't large, maybe small, medium-sized brands, or even startup brands that are just getting into social media, doing some advertising, maybe getting a little bit of traction. What I've seen just on my end of things, dealing with some of these smaller brands, a lot of times they're kind of newbies at this whole thing. They're trying different things, trying different ad campaigns, testing out different social platforms, but they're just throwing things at the wall and seeing if it sticks. From everything that you've seen and dealing with the brands that you've seen, what would you say are some common mistakes that e-commerce brands make when they're trying to, just really tap into that social media potential?
Yeah, hey, I can share some of our own, right, as a startup.
Okay.
Like we're helping others with their campaigns through the technology that we use. But we have had to grow up very quickly in terms of how we use marketing, different techniques out there in the wild. So the things that we've seen that go wrong and that I've seen others do wrong, that they are getting lost in the technicality of online marketing. It is hugely complex, or the principles are basic, right? Like we were just talking about, you want to get the right message in front of the right user at the right time, and that's what we try and help with. But I'd say that the marketplace vendors who are trying to help with all of this, there's a lot of snake oil, and there are a lot of people who sell you the thing that they really understand. So we had this 2 or 3 times, particularly as a startup. We have very quick experiment cycles. Like, let's try something for a month, 3, even a week, or even a number of days, and then measure the improvement. And if it doesn't give us an improvement, then we'll try something different. So the first one is, you've got to go into it with a very experimental mindset. And I think you used that phrase. And you've got to find an advisor or some way of getting advice and expertise that is going to be willing to go on that experimental journey. Because all too often, the providers and advisors that I see out in the marketplace and that we've engaged with have been kind of a one-trick pony, I guess, right? They're like, what you need to do is LinkedIn advertising. And so we'll do a LinkedIn campaign. And then when that doesn't really work for us and it's not getting traction, they kind of run dry pretty quickly. But they don't say to us, I'm running dry. They kind of keep modifying it. So
Sure.
we've had to be quite brutal, and I see others who are successful being quite brutal in saying, right, this isn't working, and this advisor isn't working. We need to move on. And we've been blessed to find the right talent who can help us to do that experimental piece. But I'd
Okay.
say, someone who can actually navigate all the options, because not every option works for you. I mean, we actually have been quite disappointed by paid advertising on Google and on LinkedIn and some of those others, because they've become, a lot of the people we target have become very sort of, what's the right word? They're weary of it, right? They've been exposed to so much. I think these tools are starting to kind of stumble a little bit, particularly in the B2B market, but I can imagine in the B2C bit, people are filtering hard these days. I mean, we know that email is dying, right? It's
Yeah.
really hard to get through an email. We found, though, that some of the paid strategies just do not get the cut through that we'd expect. And the other thing that we're seeing is the ability to go back to other channels and be very highly targeted with really quality um, content and creative is actually the thing that wins through. And following that up with real strong kind of follow through with account based development has been really powerful as well.
Hmm.
So there is no single way through all this, and for
Yeah.
e-commerce vendors, it's going to be the same, right? So don't take anybody on their word who says, right, this, I have the answer, this is the solution. Have an
Yes.
experimental mindset. Be prepared to move between advisors quite quickly
Hmm.
until you work out what it is for you. I say that from experience, and we work with some pretty large brands in both, hospitality, sports, e-commerce, dating we mentioned. And whenever I talk to them as senior marketing VPs and directors, they tell the same story, which is of a huge explosion of performance marketing techniques, of which
Hmm.
only a few actually end up working.
Yes. It's always just it comes down to just a few. That's always the
It does,
case.
and
For
there is
sure.
no magic bullet, but the mistakes are usually made because people are maybe led by what they've read and been told, and they're too loyal to some of that, and they don't have that
Hmm.
experimental framework that allows them to quickly chop and change. Harder in a bigger organization, but we were focusing a bit, I think, more on the smaller end, where you do have
Yes.
that agility, and that is your like secret sauce in the marketplace against the big players who have less
Hmm.
agility, is the ability to try new techniques to reach
Hmm.
new audiences in new ways.
Yeah.
And that for me is the most exciting bit about being a smaller
Yeah.
business.
Yeah, for sure. Very, very exciting. Now, speaking of thinking about AI, we've of course talked a lot about um, some of the things that your solution can do: moderating, managing comments, getting your team to be able to respond to the right buyer,
Mm.
weeding through all of the garbage and the rubbish. What role do you see AI playing now, that with regards to content creation, video image creation? Is that something that a brand should really embrace, or is it still a little bit early to say, okay, we're just going to have AI create all of our imagery, all of our videos or video concepts, give us the ideas and put it out there? Is that something a brand can kind of rest solid on, or do you still need a creative team?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, right? It's too,
Okay.
like, everything I say on this podcast will probably be wrong in 9 months' time because of the speed at which it's progressing.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
use ChatGPT. We use a whole range, and we're lucky enough
Hmm.
to have access to Claude and Anthropic and all these different things. Um,
Yes.
and they're all progressing. But right now, I would say you shouldn't rely on those things. You can,
Okay.
I think, rely on ChatGPT and other tools, large language models, to get you to help you with first drafts, help you with like idea generation. It can step you through some of those creative
Hmm.
steps really quickly. But at the end of the day, when you want to create that piece of content that is going to cut through and actually have an impact, it has to be uniquely you, and it has to
Yeah. That's
really,
very true.
the content quality has to be tangibly good. I think people are already very good at
Hmm.
seeing an image and going, that's not real, right? That is like
Yes.
like my daughter, she's 13, she can says it tell it in an instant,
Hmm.
And so I think it's really hard still to pull the wool over people's eyes. Now I see a lot of
Okay.
people trying to scale, and this goes back to our earlier point. They're trying to do everything to everyone, and they're using AI
Yeah.
to do it. So it's kind of
Right.
it creates this kind of lazy flabbiness in marketing, which is, hey, I can do everything now, but the quality
Hmm.
comes down and the quantity goes up, and that is kind of the story of marketing over the last few
Yeah.
years. But the
For sure.
winners, I would say, are the ones who kind of like use these AI technologies to really accelerate the creative process. Like
Hmm.
help, like we use tools like Clay.ai, which I highly recommend. Fantastic tool, which enables us to really mine data from lots of different places to work out personas, find out where they are, target them, what are they interested in? That all of that
Hmm.
is automated. That allows us to
Sure.
really cut through the creative process of
Hmm.
assembling a marketing campaign. But at the end of the day, when we want to actually execute that campaign, we will all sit down as human beings, flesh and blood, in the room and say, well, what is it uniquely for us? What's that message going to be? How do we want to
Yeah.
craft it? And if we need to bring creative in, we will. And then we execute. But I
I
wouldn't
see.
go, right, now ChatGPT, create the ad, and it comes out with
Right.
that slightly fuzzy looking kind of weird imagery, and maybe someone's got six
Hmm.
fingers, or that seems to have gone.
Yeah.
And I
Exactly.
just and some of the copy becomes overly generic, and we are particularly
Yes.
strong on tone of voice. We want to be, professional but approachable. And I sometimes find that the generic stuff it smells that it's been
Yeah.
generated by an AI. Now
Yeah.
that will change, but
Hmm.
you absolutely have to be using AI in your marketing. There's no question, I think, to keep an edge. Uh, but I wouldn't necessarily push the execution button all the way through to like do my creative. I just wouldn't go
Yeah.
there yet.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We're getting there, and
Yeah.
like you said, you can kind of sniff these things out. I usually can tell,
Mm.
at a first glance. I've seen the ads where they got the kind of the fake AI generated model. At first glance, if you're just scrolling by, you'll be like, all right, it'll catch you by okay. And then you look again, you say, oh no, that's AI. So these days, you
Yeah,
can
you
tell.
can. And actually, I think some of the brands who are going to win out, and I think we're starting to see this, and we're starting to see it with the big brands because they can make a big
Yes.
fanfare about it, is
Right.
declaring how they're using AI. We're
Yes.
pre-regulation at the moment, right? But it is going
Right.
to happen, and
Hmm.
probably not in the US first of all. I don't know, but I think in Europe there's probably a little bit more like
Hmm.
friendly to regulation. But they're already talking about, and they've already got some regulations out there, which is going to be like, you've got to tell people when you're using AI, you've got to expose it and be transparent about it. But some brands you can see are already going out there and they're saying that we are
Hmm.
transparently using AI, they're labeling things. And I think that's a good thing. We encourage our clients to be totally transparent when they're using it, Arwen, that they're using an AI to help with moderation and management. But
Yes.
the AI they're never communicating with an AI. They're always communicating with a human. The AI is
Hmm.
just doing all the suggestion work. But
Yes.
I think that's what we're going to see. I hope that's what we're going to see because I think as
Hmm.
consumers as well as marketeers, we all deserve to know what's going on. And
Yeah,
because
that makes sense.
it's going to get so good, Arlen, that we're not going to be able to tell in 9 months.
Yeah,
But at
it
that point,
is.
we deserve to know, right? As much.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think you kind of have as a brand a responsibility to let your customers know. Well, the unfortunate thing is, I don't know how many brands are going to do that and let people know, or are they going to just
Yeah.
take advantage of this? Like their kids in a candy store,
I, yeah.
going buck wild with this technology. But
Yeah. And you're
we'll,
absolutely
we'll,
Yeah, and
mhm,
you
we'll
look globally, there's going to be different cultures going to go after it in different ways, and there's always
yes.
bad actors who are going to manipulate. I mean, like spammers, right? They
Mhm.
are very strong early adopters of AI, and they are
Yeah.
using it continuously just to generate deep fakes, masquerading as
Mhm.
clients, posting all sorts of stuff thousands of times a minute all over the globe, and it
Right.
keeps us very busy. So yeah, you
Yeah.
want to talk about people using AI,
Mhm.
nefariously and not transparently. I mean, spammers are right down there at the bottom of the
Yeah.
pile,
For sure. For
doing
sure.
quantity, zero quality.
Yeah.
It's like the old kind of direct mail model. I'm going to put a
Exactly.
thousand leaflets through your door. Maybe you'll
Yeah.
reply to one of them. It's so wasteful and unpleasant.
Yeah. For sure. They're all going with that same model.
Mm.
Well, Joel, as we get ready to wrap things up, what would you say? Because there's a lot, of course, to focus on
Mm.
with social media and AI, and a lot of times brands don't know what to focus on. We've talked about a lot here. So if they're really trying to get their customers to, you know, increase their willingness to spend more with their brand, what should the brand focus on first? Should it be engagement? Should it be content? Or should it be targeted ad? What would you say should
Okay,
be that
yeah.
thing they want to focus on?
Um, Well, first of all, you want to, as long as you know who your audience is, you know what your product is, you've got that fit worked out. That's the first thing.
Mhm.
Then you want the good
Okay.
content, right? So you want content that is going to engage people. It's hard. We've already talked about it. You've got to work out your
Mhm.
kind of secret sauce there to make that
Yes.
equation work. We would then say when you're putting stuff out on social, it is in a social environment. People want to interact with it. They're going to. They're going to interact with it badly and they're going to interact with it positively. Luckily, the bad actors out there are a small minority, but the
Mhm.
algorithms on social networks tend to promote that drama so that the small, toxic, or just the noisy people can sometimes cause problems for you. So, yeah, I would recommend get your content out there, keep your socials clean, have sort
Mhm.
of brand safety in there because, as I said earlier, it allows you to then have campaigns that whether they're paid or organic, and I think both, right? Because your organic are the people who are already interested in you as a brand, they're following you, so like talk to them.
Mhm.
Keep it safe for them all to talk to you, right? Don't have anyone spoil that. But paid, you can go after people who don't know you, they don't follow you, so definitely do both. Keep it clean, some moderation. Now, obviously, not everyone can buy Arwen, right? But inside all of the networks, they have tools that you can set up to moderate, right? Obviously, they
Mhm.
don't satisfy most of our clients, but they will satisfy some of us, your listeners, right? So just make sure that those are set up properly. And we've got guides on the website, arwen.ai, if you need to do that. The second
Okay,
thing
great.
then is engage with people on social. So have some sort of tool which allows you to listen or just do it through the native channels, right? But go in
Mhm.
there and routinely look for people who are asking questions, look for
Mhm.
people who are interested in what you're doing. I think all
Yeah.
too often, and this is the big takeaway for me, is all too often brands are spending all their money on content. They're
Yeah.
pushing the content out there. At best, they might be listening. So they've got a social listening tool.
Mhm.
But that's just telling them that stuff's going on, but they're not actually doing the final bit, which is interaction. Okay, so once you've
Mhm.
listened, you want to interact with someone. So, like, talk to your followers, talk to the people who are reply to your ads. Like, that's where the gold is because if you 74% of people will respond much more favorably to a brand if they reply on social media and your
Mhm.
your return on advertising spend on an online ad goes up by 56% if you reply to comments. Now that is not a surprise really. If someone's on an ad on social media and they put a comment there and you reply, that person's already in a buying situation. They're looking at ad. It's like we said earlier, they're standing by the billboard going, this is really interesting.
Mhm.
You
Yes.
don't grab them at that moment, then it's gone. So yeah, content first, keep it clean second, and then engage third. Those would be my kind of
Okay.
three takeaways, Aaron.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That's awesome. As we see there's a lot of low hanging fruit there that
Mm.
sometimes brands overlook,
Yeah,
and they're constantly still putting out
yeah,
content,
yeah,
but yet they've got people already raising their hands saying, I like your company, I want your product, I
yeah,
just have this question. But a lot of times, because they get distracted or because of the mass of spam that you're kind of dealing with, you miss them. And so I see it's really important to really go through that first and see what you're dealing with
yeah.
regards to people that are already engaging with your brand.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
like when I've done talks before, I've kind of role played it. Like you've got a market stall, old school
Mhm.
marketing. Imagine you're in a market and you're just kind
Right.
of shouting to the crowd, like, come and buy these headphones. These headphones are the best headphones. And then Arlen comes over and starts asking me questions about headphones. And I just shout over your head. I want the rest
Right,
of the people
exactly.
behind you. But you're right in
Yes.
front of me and you want to buy them. But on social
Hmm.
media, I'm not stopping and going to you, yeah, Arlen, these are great. These will fit your head perfectly. You're going to love these headphones. And I think
Hmm.
that's the real basic. Too many brands are shouting over the tops of the people that are right at the
Right.
front of the queue, and I feel like
Yeah.
it's such a missed opportunity.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. That's a great analogy, and thank you for sharing that. Well, Joel, it's been awesome having you on. I really have learned a lot. I know our listeners and viewers have as well. finally, before we do let you go, I always like to shift gears just a little bit, just so we can get to know you a little bit better. If you don't mind sharing one closing fun fact about yourself that you think we'd be interested to know.
Yeah, I wrote my dissertation when I was a student on Detroit techno. I'm a massive techno head
Okay.
and
Okay.
always
Awesome.
have been. Yeah, I
Okay.
lived in LA for a year actually when I wrote it. I studied
Hmm.
ethnomusicology at UCLA and film.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I watched as it was happening a repeat of what happened with the Beatles in the 60s and the Rolling Stones, which was essentially
Hmm.
black music was exported from the US to the UK
Hmm.
and was
Yes.
re-imported as white music, okay, like rock and
Right.
roll. And it was
Right.
happening with
Right.
techno. So techno is originally an African-American art form from
Hmm.
Detroit, Chicago, exported out to
Exactly.
the UK and Europe in like
Hmm.
1997.
Hmm.
And I wrote my whole dissertation on that,
Okay.
and it was the highest awarded grade they'd ever done in that
Oh, wow.
course. So, like,
Awesome.
it's one of those facts, but for me, it says a lot about what drives me is finding
Hmm.
those kind of weird patterns in life and going, wow,
Yes.
I'm totally
Yeah.
engrossed in it, passionate about the
Hmm.
music. So, yeah, there's a
Yeah.
fact about me.
Yeah, interesting. And thank you for sharing that. And I'm originally from Chicago, so I'm very familiar with house music and Chicago being the birthplace of house music. And I
Yeah.
remember going to those early house clubs when I was, coming back to Chicago during my breaks from college, and
Mm.
just being in that scene. And yeah, it always has amazed me how it's like you said, started off in the States, Chicago, Detroit, went over, and then fully adapted and grasped by where you are in the UK, and then you guys have kind of add your own thing to it, and then
Yeah.
it kind of just this now it's just
Yeah.
really global. So
Well,
it's
yeah.
really amazing.
But
It's
back in
amazing.
'97, when it was like EDM, when it first started, it
Yes.
was coming back as the Prodigy. They were top of the Billboard chart. The Chemical
Right.
Brothers. These are just like white kids
Yep.
like
Yep.
me who had listened
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
black music, and it was
Mm,
just made more palatable. And that story of
mm,
race and music and international transfer is just
hmm.
fascinating to me. And
It
obviously,
is.
there's weirdly a marketing angle because it happens all the time. It's like, how do you make
Uh-huh.
things presentable to a community and to an
Yeah.
audience? And I just
Mhm.
find that fascinating and wrong in lots of ways, but that's just how the world works.
Yeah,
And
it really
so,
is.
yeah, really fascinating. But hey, yeah, Chicago House, man, love it.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Good stuff, man. Well,
Okay.
thanks for sharing that, Joel. I really appreciate that. Lastly, before we do let you go, if anyone wants to reach out to you and pick your brain any more about social media and AI or anything under that sun, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, you can get me on LinkedIn, Joel Bailey at Arwen, or you can get me on email, joel@arwen.ai. Just drop me a note. Love to talk to any of your listeners. It'd be fantastic.
Okay, that's awesome. We'll definitely have those links in the show notes, and encourage people to reach out to you. And it's definitely been a pleasure having you on, Joel, on the E-commerce Marketing Podcast.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the E-commerce Marketing Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share it with everyone you know. Are you looking to take your digital marketing to the next level but are tired of weeding through countless YouTube videos with unproven and untrusted marketing strategies? Well, we have the answer for you. The More Sales Every Month online digital marketing course. In this information-packed course, you will learn effective keyword research, link building, content marketing, and much more to attract and convert your site visitors into paying customers. Just go to moresaleseverymonth.com and sign up today for a low one-time fee. In addition to this power-packed course, if you would like to get access to a growing repository of digital marketing articles, PDFs, and ebooks, check out getosi.com/resources and opt in to get full access to our library of priceless marketing information to help you take your digital marketing to the next level.